Hey man,
How are you?
I'm good.
I'm just sliding in home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's been hot here the past couple of days in our neighborhood. I've noticed a couple of HVAC trucks parked out front of a couple of homes. Just going, yeah, it's that season.
It's the time. So I was talking to somebody in Maryland yesterday, and I think going up north, it should always be cooler up north than it is in the south, right? Should always be that way. That's just the way my brain thinks. When
Traditionally,
it's
yeah.
hot, we're hot, up north. They were 98 degrees
Whew,
yesterday. It
wow.
was 92 here. So I'm telling you, it is kind of crazy.
Yeah,
So, what in the world are we talking about today, Carter?
we're talking about images.
Images.
Talking about visuals and how it makes a huge difference to your business when you take charge of your visual brand online. And we're going to talk about how search is becoming more visual. We're going to talk about a lot of good things, but it's all about images.
Images. Are you ready to jump in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, before we do, just want to say for those of you that have joined us already, if you can give us a like or a heart, that would be great. Facebook kind of loves that stuff. So, we're going to continue asking for it. And we're going to jump in here. And this is one of the things that I think is really interesting. Google's own 2017 survey of 16,000 adults. I mean, they literally found that 90% of purchasers are more likely to use a business that has photos on their search results page. I mean, that's a lot, 90%.
Yeah,
74% of shoppers say that photos on the results page indicates a more reputable business.
that's uh, that's interesting. It's not the photo itself; it's what the story that the photo tells. Right? If a picture is worth 1,000 words, then those photos are indicating something to a purchaser. And a purchaser may not realize. Like, I doubt 90% of those purchasers say, well, okay, I'm going to search for a business, but I'm only going to look for businesses or do business with people who have images in their search results. It's like not even registering with them, but those images are incredibly, according to this, 90% incredibly influential in the final decision that gets made just because those images are present. And it does build trust. It does add to the reputation perception of a company.
When I think of images, the way that I kind of break it down is this. We all know that people like to do business with people they like, right?
Mhm.
So I think that people like to see their things or the things that they like in images. Or if they need a service, they want to see how somebody does the service so that they can say, "Oh, that's the way they do the service. That's the way what they're going to do when they come to my house." That's what I think is so important about an image. And you and I have studied sales psychology enough to know everybody thinks that this is the I'm just gonna just do this real quick. Everybody thinks that in psychology and sales psychology, we study and we ponder. We look at the price. We do all the above and all that. We don't. It's our reptilian brain that goes, "Ooh, I want that," or "I like that," or "Yeah, that's the one." And it normally chooses before our choice ever comes out of our mouth. It's just amazing how that works. I mean, yeah,
And a lot of times it's guessing and testing and seeing whether or not our observations about human psychology and the impetus to buy um, is correct or not.
yeah.
And the proof's in the pudding. I mean, actions speak louder than words. So um, that's always the fun part. Like, I mean, let's just talk about visuals for a second. This has been an age old argument, or not argument, but uh, concern of people who are about to have their website done, by us or by some other marketing company, because they have very specific ideas about how they want it to look. I want it to look, I want it to stand out. I want it to be different than anyone else is out there. And what they mean is, I want it to be effective.
Yeah.
Right? I want my website to be effective. And in that spirit, absolutely, we want to make it effective. But oftentimes, what's effective looks an awful lot like what's already been done before, right? Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. It's also the surest path to success.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
sometimes just copying what other people have done that we know is effective gets us there.
I just finished a master SEO course. And I love part of it because it's what I tell people all the time: phone number, top right hand, menu, top of the page. It's logo, top left. I mean, it's like it has nothing. It's click through. It's the conversion rate. Sorry, you want something to convert, then you've got to put things where people are normally going to expect to see them. It's like walking into your house and somebody moved the furniture. And you're going, well, everything is not there where I thought it was. And so there are certain things that you just want it to be a certain way visually, to make that work. So we could get off on some really good tangents here. We're gonna get back to images here.
Okay.
So Google sees images in the local business profile as critical to add trust to your local search consumer experience. And this is one of the places that I see a lot of people not taking advantage of images in that local business profile. So that's the Google business profile, the GBP. Well, I just have to get used to saying that. Not only in the images that represent your business, when you put it in, like your signage, your building, those kind of things, but there are places where you could put products, you put your services, and there's also places where you can post something. You post every day, 2 or 3 times a day if you want, in an image post there. But using those things is really, really critical, and you should be using them. I mean, that's the thing. You really, really should be using everything that Google or anybody else gives you for images. And so that's one of the reasons that we're talking about this today, because it is crazy, crazy. What does it do? It increases conversions. I mean, that's the number one thing. Hey, Mark, glad you're on. I just wanted to say hi for a minute. Don't see you every week, but we're glad you're here this week, man.
But conversions or conversations? This says conversations, but both are true. So I just wanted to know which.
You know what? It's increasing conversations. Really, is this? It's increasing conversations around what you do, but also it increases conversions. I got ahead of myself because on my notes.
Gotcha.
The next thing we're going to talk about is increase the quality of sharing things with that, which is conversions. When you have conversations, let's just talk about this a minute. I'm going to use social for. I know we're talking about website and search, but images are so prevalent on social that I don't know if you guys used to remember. Hopefully, some of you guys remember when everybody was putting up just kind of a background and a quote. That was all the rage. Everybody just said, all you got to do to be on social is just do quotes. That's all you need. And then somebody all of a sudden decided to put pictures of what's going on in their life up. And then, and you take it from the quotes all the way to now. Well, if you don't dance and sing and, juggle on your head while you're standing on your head on TikTok, you may not, have anything to do. You see where I'm going here? I mean, we've gone to this whole wide thing here of what works to what sort of works from one to another. But what is the reigning theme to this? It's all about images, whether it's photos or whether it's video, it's images. And so that's where we're going. Whether you like it or not, that's where it's going. And that's why it's so important to start paying attention to your images.
So one of the things that I think images do, to your point, conversions, conversations, oftentimes the story can tell a person very quickly that they're in the right place, especially when it's a technical something that they don't fully understand and maybe not even know how to search your website to find out if you do a particular service. Like, what is that part on top of your chimney that's kind of like concrete, and well, mine's all cracked and chipped and falling off, and but I don't know what that's called. So they show up on your website looking for crown repair, have no idea what to call it, don't know, but there's a picture of the top of a chimney with a crown that's in really bad shape, and suddenly they go, "That's my problem. They do what I need."
Yeah.
So it can absolutely help with letting people know and setting the right expectations about what you do.
And this is the other thing. I've seen pictures, and I've been working with chimney companies now for about 12 years. I've seen pictures that people send to me that they want us to put on their website that are so bad I can't tell what's going on. And if I can't tell what's going on, the average person out there, I guarantee you can't tell what's going on. It just looks like a dark pit. And so, when you may be out there and think, "Oh, this is awesome. Look at this picture of creosote." You take a picture and it just looks like a big black hole. That doesn't help. You got to increase the quality of your photos. It's really, really important because people need to be able to identify what that photo really is. Now, there are some of us that take horrible pictures, even though we have great equipment. All right? Just is. I get it. If you have to go out and take a photography class or hire a professional to, go around with you for a couple of days, do that. That's important. But you got to increase the quality of your image. Not only that, we talked a few weeks ago about how Google's AI is actually starting to figure out what these images are. No, they're not as good as a 4-year-old, but they're getting a lot better. Where they would crunch and crunch and take them 30 minutes, now it only takes them a few minutes. It may take you and I a second to know what that is, but I don't think it's going to be that far off. Those images, the AI are going to be able to identify what those images are.
Yep.
So I think that's really, really good.
So I would say maybe increase the quality of the image, but also increase the quality of the descriptions of your images on the page. Yes. Right? And that gets into meta information and alt tags and title tags and things like that. And that's, we're not going to go down the technical rabbit hole as far as, how to structure data on your website. But, there should be descriptions of your images, and they should be decent enough descriptions to describe what it is the image, relates to, or what it is that is contained in the image. That helps not only your visitor, but it helps Google understand what the image is and why it's important.
Absolutely. Look at there. This is what happens when you're live. It's what happens when you're live. So the next thing I want to talk about is this. Where do you start? I've had that question. So the very first thing that I would do is go to your website, and everywhere that you have a stock photo, I would take that and I would replace it with a high quality photo. If there's any way possible, that is a great place to actually start. Here's the next question we get. Do original images improve ranking?
Well, there's starting to be some evidence that that they do. Google definitely knows what a stock image is because they've seen it before, right? Stock images get used over and over and over again on the web. So when there's a stock image that appears on the web, Google doesn't look at that as being as important or important at all, compared to an original image on your website. So original images on your website, images that Google has never seen anywhere else before, and on your website, Google sits up and pays a little more attention to that. And there we are seeing some evidence that it does improve in rankings. But more than whether it improves in rankings, like going from spot something down here to spot something up here, it actually it's giving you more visibility because Google is starting to include images that are relevant to the searcher's terms that they used when they were searching. So now when the search results get returned, your search result, which has an image that's related to what they were searching for, shows up right there in Google's search page. And we all know that images cause your eye to do what? It draws your eye right down to what it, to that visual thing. We are visual creatures. Our brains are wired visibly. Our sight, for those who are sighted, the back part of the brain is where all of that visual information is processed, and it is the first thing to fire and the fastest part of the brain in terms of synapses and connections. So visual things interrupt people. It catches people's attention. It shows up in their brains faster than any other kind of information. So if you have images and you put them on your website and they're well described, Google sees those original images and shows them to searchers. You have that much more chance of being visible and being recognized as someone that has the information they're looking for.
Yeah, and it's been proven over and over again. And when images come up next to text, images almost always get clicked. Now they may come back and click into the text, but images almost always get clicked. So I think that's a real important thing to know as well. So here's another thing I thought interesting: photos that are better for ranking. Let's talk about that a little bit, because this is something that, and this is a hard thing, guys. And I'm not trying to get anybody to go out and hire $50,000 worth of videography and photos and all that kind of stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. What I am talking about is you got to pay attention to quality, to the quantity, to make sure that the photos are matching on the page that you're on. Because if there's a mismatch of any type and Google sees that, then what that does in ranking is it actually says, oh, I'm a widget maker. I'm telling everybody I'm a widget maker, but I have this other thing over here that I'm a skateboarder. And those two things don't go together. So I'm not going to show you for a widget maker or a skateboarder. So everything on your page has to make sense. That's one of the biggest mistakes I see that people make. It's got to make sense. I've seen pictures, and I love animals. I love dogs. Everybody knows that. But if you've got an image and your description of that image is, dog sleeping, and it's sleeping in front of a fireplace, and you don't say dog sleeping in front of the fireplace on your alt text, then Google it. There's a disconnect in what that's about. You've got to include what's going on there. You've got to include the entire picture there. So, it's not just the photo that you choose that's inviting to your customer, but you've got to make sure that photo, like you had said, the descriptions are there so that Google knows what the heck it is for sure, because that's how they shortcut it. And,
I love that one of Google's or not requirements, but part of their advice is that higher quality, larger images tend to do better than smaller images.
mm-hmm.
And yet, Google also tells us that having images that are too large and slow down the loading of your page can count against you as well. So, Google's not always consistent with their advice, and you definitely have to weigh certain concerns with other concerns, and putting really large images on your website that download every time a page is hit is maybe not a good idea. I love the idea of putting, and this is technical, but it's important, and I think for some people they'll appreciate this. Putting a smaller thumbnail image or a good, a small size representational image on the screen when it loads, but make it so that if somebody clicked the image, it would load a larger version that would take up the whole screen, like a slideshow kind of deal, or show them, the larger version. That larger version doesn't have to load every time the page loads, just the small version, which keeps your page load faster, but it also has behind it a larger image, which Google appreciates.
Yeah, and really right here, these are the main things to remember. You've got to have great images that helps both the user and Google to fully understand your business. And here's the thing, it's not just Google. So we talk about Google because they're kind of the big dog in the room. But Bing, all the search engines, and I think I just read yesterday, I think Apple's fixing to launch one as competition to Bing and Google, by the way. So if y'all weren't knowing about that, then there you go. You heard it here first, right here on Spark Live. Um, I don't know if that's true or not, but it's a rumor that Apple is going to be launching that. So there are very specific things that a long time ago they got together and said we're going to do things a certain way. So just know, if Google is understanding your business, Bing is probably also understanding your business. If Apple gets in the game, they're going to understand the images. That's just kind of the way that goes. So just know you've got to have images that both your customer and Google understands. You also need to figure out the ideal image that you want on every page, every job, the gallery. I will tell you, for service businesses, my preference is a before and after. I say this a lot. Before you start a job, take a piece of tape, put it on the floor, take a picture from that vantage point, do the job. At the end of the job, go back to that same vantage point, put the left foot or right foot, whichever one was by the tape, take a picture from the same vantage point. Those are the best before and after pictures. And if you think about it, stop, and take pictures incrementally when the job is done. It's even better so that people can see what your process is. One of the things that's interesting in video on YouTube, one of the most watched videos are process videos, which are how-to videos. How do I do this? How do I do that? Or how does this work? What was that? There was a show at one time, Carter, that you loved of how things work. I think it was. It's been years ago that you talked about it. It was when your son was really, really little.
Yeah, called How It's Made.
How it's made. Same kind of a deal. How something works, how it's made. We want to know how the sausage is made. Some of us don't want to know how the sausage is made, but you know how that goes. But just know that that's the important thing about an ideal image is you need to know those kind of things and to be able to plan for it. Train your techs on it. Know what you're going to be doing while you're out there. All important stuff. Just know consumers, in fact, are clicking on images. It's one of the reasons that we use images on websites. We write about all the content as well, but we have images because we know using heat maps that consumers will come down and click on the image going in, to the chimney or going into the plumbing or, whatever it is. They want images there. Even though we have to have all that other information on there, they're going to click on the images. So the bottom line here is this. What in the world does it mean for my business? Isn't that always what it is? That's always what we want to know, right? So here we go. So Lou, Safari search engine, I have no idea. That's what I thought too. So
Safari is the browser.
It's a browser. There you go.
Safari is a web browser, and they actually have a partnership or had a partnership with Google, but I don't know for search. So I don't know who provides the search in Safari by default now, but at one time it was Google.
Well, see, I'm glad there are more people that know more than you and I do, Lou, because that's what I thought when I read it, but it's like, now I don't know. Okay, let's get into this, what it really means for your business. So first and foremost, you got to maximize the benefit of photos for your local listing. How do you do that, Carter?
Maximizing photos for your local listing, the benefit, choose images that are matched to the content on the page and place those images close to the content that matches that image. So if you have a page that's talking about 16 services, don't put an image of service number 15 up near service number 2 because it's not close to the content that it describes it. So you want to maximize the benefit, but space out your images throughout the page. That does something for users. Our eyes jump to large blocks of visual interest, and we will continue scrolling down a page that continues to show us images. What I see a lot of times is an image up at the very top of a page and then no other images below it. So it's fine if you can only put one image on your page, You don't always have to put it at the very top. You can put it halfway down. You can put it down toward the bottom. But usually people put it up at the front because they want to show their image stuff to people above the fold or when the page first loads. But spreading images out, having multiple images is always a great idea. We've talked about the technical part of describing the images better, making sure that they're sized appropriately, not too big to cause the page to slow down, but clickable so that it opens up maybe a larger image version for some images where there's a lot of detail and that detail is important to describe, what the page is talking about. I think all of those things just offhand are ways of maximizing the benefit of local. What specifically do you have in mind, Taylor?
Well, I think all the above. I think the main thing, and I'm going to get into this, is make sure that you are putting those images on your Google Business Profile. I think that's really important. But here's something that most people don't do: they don't track user contributed photos. We always love it when users put their photos on our pages, our social, our whatever. However, sometimes they put photos that we don't really want on there. All right, they may be inappropriate. They may not be exactly the job. I mean, some people use photos to spam other companies. So you got to start paying attention just when, if somebody comes and puts a photo on your business profile, puts a photo in a review, puts a photo anywhere that a user can actually put a photo. If it's not something that you want, you need to get rid of it. If it ends up in a review, one of the things you're going to have to do is you're going to have to report it to Google. You can do that through the dashboard, and just kind of make sure that you know that's the thing about Google. They don't really get back to you. You have to keep checking back and make sure until it's done, and then you may have to report it a couple of times. Just kind of know that. And then make sure that you add your own business photos in those places as well so that people really do understand what you do. It's really, really important. I love this one. Make lemonade from user uploaded lemons. So take this one. So if your business attracts an inordinate amount of user photos and you can't beat them, consider joining them. So sometimes if you'll just use those photos, you can comment underneath, you can comment in the review section, those kind of things on social. In other words, try not to make it combative. Play with these kind of things. Because sometimes if you take things down and do certain things, people come back and they get a little bit of offended. But if you can say, "Hey, well, look what this was," or "Look what that was," and use your own photos in those instances and kind of play with it, that's a really good thing to do with that.
I
And
love the idea of provide creating a space in your business where or guidance that you can provide to your customers for taking a better image. You know,
yeah,
restaurants do this a lot of times. By creating sort of a staged area where people can take photos and you can elicit the help of your employees to take a photo of your customer in front of the thing and whatever. So, I mean, there are ways that you can sort of take back control so your customers aren't throwing up awful images every single time.
yeah, and even have contests with your techs. Hey, whoever gonna take the best before and after picture, this week or this month or whatever, and have a contest, send them the tech and his girlfriend or wife to dinner. I mean, let me tell you, there's so many things that you can get creative with to get decent images for your business. And then if you try everything and nothing else works, hire a professional. How's that? There's a couple of things about professionals that are good. One is they're responsible for the photography. So, if they come in and they don't do a good job, then number one, you don't have to pay them. Number two, ask them to come back and get it done. Number three, most of them are very proficient in Photoshop. So there's some things that they can do there. I know we're fixing to go out and do some shooting here in the next couple of weeks, and the sign's not ready, but they're going to get us a vector file. So we're going to Photoshop a sign in. So there's a lot of different things professionals can do that maybe you guys don't think about. So those are just those are just things to remember. When you hire a professional, there's some accountability there that they, I mean, that hopefully there's accountability. Um, when you hire them to do something, they're accountable to what they have said they're going to deliver. So just hold their feet to the fire, and you're able to do that. Normally, professionals are going to give you a bigger array of things. They'll give you things for social, for website, for whatever it is that you want. If you want details, if you want office pics, if whatever it is that you want, they're going to be able to give those to you. And they're really high quality. And me, I take a photo, I take one photo and think, yeah, I'm done. A professional takes 17 photos and picks one. I mean, that's really that's really how they work. So they just get the job done.
Something
Well,
about professionals, real quick. I think
yeah,
you know, oftentimes when you have a large job or installation or a project that is going to take several weeks to complete, um, and it's going to be visually striking, the end result, it can be a great thing just to, I mean, usually in those projects you have a little bit of heads up that it's coming and that the project is going to start, when that start date is going to be. So you can contract a photographer to come out and get good coverage, take good before photos of different perspectives, different angles, show, come out halfway through the project and show some in process photos, and then come out again when it's completed and do the final after photos. And if you know that it's going to be a job that is going to win you a lot more business and you want a lot more business like that, man, spending $500 to, get a photographer out there just to do a drive by for 30 minutes, take photos, do it again 2 weeks later, and do it again when the project's over, in order to get those photos and make sure that they're high quality, absolutely worth that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I would tell you $500 a day to get one to come out and do photography for an hour is probably $500. So if you do it 3 days, it's $1,500, very well spent. The thing you have to remember when you are talking photography and videography, you're talking about an investment. So many times we look at things as expenses, but we don't look at them as if there's going to be a return. So it's hard sometimes to understand that the return on certain things that you do online uh, is going to come, but it comes over time. It comes over a longevity. So yeah, you may not get a job in say 3 months, but if it's a 20,000 job, $1,000 job you get off of a $1,500 spend for a photographer, that's a pretty good investment, guys. So you have to really look at it and just kind of test that and see how that is. So I wouldn't say to use it on small jobs, but yeah, if it's a big job like that, absolutely. Another thing hiring a photographer will do, which I see this several times, especially in companies that have multiple offices. It's like, this office brand's a little bit different than that office, the brand's a little bit different than this other office, and so you kind of go and the continuity is kind of off. And a lot of times a photographer will go, you know what, those colors aren't the same as that. They may be able to color match and color correct some, so that everything matches a little bit better. Now, with that said, I would tell you, if that was my business, make sure everything matches, because that's really important, that your branding and all that is really, really good. And that really is working at scale. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. If you've got big jobs like that, that's a big thing, is doing that and working at scale. So future proofing for visual search, Carter.
Well, we know that visual is going to continue to be an increasingly larger and larger part of the future of search. So, we're already seeing that happen. We know it's going to continue to happen. Video is, important as well. Those visuals just become, um, a more and more important part. I mean, if we're talking about future proofing and staying ahead of the curve, then now is the time to start really taking advantage of photos, using those photos, and creating libraries of good visual content on your website. Because when as it becomes increasingly more and more important, you don't want to be playing catch up to somebody, a competitor in your market, who's already got 500 before and after photos well organized on their website for visitors to be able to go through. You want to be right in there with them and able to continue contributing those so that you don't become irrelevant.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll add to that is there's not one person that I follow and respect in the SEO world who does not think that we are going to be headed into a visual search world. That's where everybody is saying we're headed. So I totally agree. And this one reason we're spending so much time on this is really trying to get you guys primed to understand that if Google tomorrow said, okay, guys, you know how, search is all about mobile search? Well, now it's going to be all about visuals. If that happened today, would you be ready? I mean, that's really what you got to ask yourself. If visual search happened today, would I be ready? And if the answer is yes, great. If the answer is kind of, then you need to figure out what else you need to do. And if the answer is yeah, no, then you really need to get on the stick if you're going to be around. I've had heard predictions, and it could be 2 years, could be 5 years. So it's going to be interesting to see. But I'm just telling you, this is where it's going. So when it gets there, if you're a client of ours, don't call me and say we didn't tell you, because then I'll pull this thing up and put it in front of you. I'm just saying this is really where it's going, and so we want you guys to be prepared and start working toward where you need to be, so it doesn't catch you flat-footed. That's the main thing. Is the main thing.
We got to mention here that a lot of the things that we've been talking about, a lot of the content for this particular episode or this show comes from Near Media and an article that they wrote. We'll make sure that we include that link in the comments for anyone that would like to read it and have those notes available. Want to attribute, give credit where credit's due, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't. We don't come up with all this stuff on our own. I promise.
Well, we do. We just, they organized it so much better.
So well, I know it was really good. They did a great job. So we borrowed it, but we do want to give them credit, and they do a really good job. And it's a medium that if you guys want to follow, it's a very good resource. And if you guys want to get in there and read some of that stuff, it'd be great. So we're a little bit over our 30 minutes, but Spark Live can now be found as a podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, or your favorite player. Then next week, we're going to talk about why automation in your business matters. So this is going to be an exciting week. And then the week after that, we're actually going to have a guest on our show that has used automation in their office. And they are going to be talking about all the benefits that they got from it. So that's going to be fun too. So that's 2 weeks from now. But next week, why automation in your business matters. So guys, thank you so much. We appreciate all your comments. I want to make sure I recognize Mark and Jared and Lou and Jonathan. Jonathan, thank you for keeping us honest. Really appreciate that as well. Thank you for all the love and likes. Linda, Terry, Lou, Chuck, Lee, Jared, Chris, and Mitch. Thanks so much. Y'all have a great week, and we will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.